Can we see your like Vox layering and bus processing?
The vocals layering?
Yeah.
Okay. So this vocal was a sample, as many of my vocals are, because I'm way too lazy to. Well, actually, it's not even about being lazy, honestly. It's that I can't write what I feel is a good song unless I already have a vocal sample as a placeholder over the song. Like, I can't write chords right, I can't structure a song right unless the vocals are already there. The big problem with that is that once I take that vocal sample off, no matter if Katy Perry came in and recorded over this, it's not going to sound as good as the original sample. So 9 times out of 10, I just keep the samples that I bought on Splice, and they're in the song now, and someone else can make us. You could probably find this on Splice and make the identical song, and that's okay. That being said, it was, as you can see, in the key of B minor, so I had to pitch it down. I did that outside of the project, though. What was I going to say? So let's just take off all the processing and see what it sounds like.
Going along, life on the road, it's just a little fierce, don't let them bring your tears.
It's not bad, but like, it had a lot of low end in it, and it just didn't really cut through the mix, so I just slapped a crap ton of stuff on it to be blunt about it. And honestly, I don't really know much about mixing vocals. It's not my strong suit. I just normally do stuff, add and subtract until it sounds right. Vitamin by Waves has been one of my best friends for vocals. I honestly can't tell you what it does at all, but I know that if I go to lead vocal 1 or lead vocal 2, if neither of those sound good, then I delete the plugin forever. But normally one of those two will do the trick, or at least be like a starting foundation. So like if I turn off all this stuff, click, 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 and then it's just Vitamin. So here's without Vitamin.
Going along.
Oh yeah, and then I also have this chain that I bought from a production, like, education company that do tutorials. And they gave out a bunch of Ableton racks, and I literally just dragged this into my project and left it there, and I didn't touch it. And it's like EQing and compressing and gating and doing all this stuff, and like, that's so backwards, and I should be slapped on the wrist for doing it, but like, it sounds good. So who cares? Anyways, Vitamin. Here's without.
Going along, life on the road, it's just a little fierce, don't let them bring your tears.
I mean, it literally just like brings life into any vocal I ever throw it at. It's cutting out a bunch of the low end and just really like sharpening the like high end sibilance, I guess you want to call it, of the vocal. And then some random preset from FabFilter for vocals, and then here's another random thing for vocals that I put on there. That's like, I don't even know what it's doing. Oh, it's a doubler. It's a doubler. So it's making a stereo copy left and right of the vocal to make it feel more full, which without it, it like didn't feel right. Again, it's a feel thing. Then this is a compressor that I probably don't know what it's doing. It says up front. And then I have this cool plugin called Animate that I just got the other day that literally does like a million different things. And I just have it, you know, like put in a little bit of sauce into the vocal. And that's about it. And honestly, that is about as technical as I get with it. So it's like 9 times out of 10, like, if, you know, find presets that save vocal, and if they sound good, keep using them, and if they don't, then don't. But like, it also comes down to having a good starting like source, and it's like,
Going along,
it still sounds pretty good, you know. It was just about taking it to the next level. Yeah, I don't do any bussing, crazy reverb, none of that stuff. I guess that's one thing that I could probably talk about, is because I'm not classically trained, and because, you know, what am I trying to say? The way that I do my reverbs, which are in here somewhere, aren't they? Did I just like not put a reverb on this vocal? I know I did. Where is it? Oh, it's at the very end. Okay. So this is how I do all my reverbs. It's basically like creating a bus, but like on the channel, if that makes sense. So it's like I have my reverb at 100% wet, and then I make a group with that reverb. I make 2 channels in that group, and one channel is dry and one channel is wet. So it's the same difference as sending your vocal here to a return track. You know what I mean? I just like doing it on the channel. It makes more sense to me. And it lets me do cool things like this, where like the vocal is, or the reverb is kind of quiet, and then when the vocal stops, the reverb swells in. So like this. And doing that with a return track would be like next to impossible. So I just like the creativity that you have doing reverbs and stuff this way. But I think that's the long and short of it. Anyone else?
Do you usually mix and master your own stuff, or do you usually outsource to other people for that?
If you asked me like 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, I always mix and master all my stuff, and I think anyone who doesn't is stupid. That being said, since then, I've had an entire 23-track album come out that I did not mix and master myself. And like things like the Shade remix and Baby Shark and stuff that Sean has mixed. That also being said, Sean is the only person I trust to mix and master my stuff at this point other than myself. And even now, I still like, I only go to Sean to mix and master something if I absolutely can't finish it myself. Because like I, still want to keep learning, still want to get better, and B, like, I just like, when I finish something on my end, I know that the energy and the vibe is there. Whereas where Sean is one of the best mixers in the world, I still have to fight with him back and forth to get the vibe of the song back into it once it sounds right, technically, if that makes sense. Mix and master your own shit. Don't let anyone else do it for you until you're very, very, very far down the road, because you're otherwise just going to be missing out on, you know, invaluable information. These 2 dudes up here have been waiting this whole time.
I'll just ask a quick question.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for sharing all of this. This is very appreciated. My question goes back to like the earlier days.
Okay.
So when you were like building this catalog of like 20 songs,
Yeah.
did every single song feel to you like this is the best thing I've ever done, or were some songs like this is okay? Because that's something I'm thinking a lot about.
Well, I hate everything once I finish it. Like, I already hate this song. I hate all the songs I put out this year. I hate it all. So it's kind of a loaded question. But did I think that all of those were good enough to put out? Yeah. In, 4 months from that point, did I think that half of them were good enough to put out? No. So, it's something that changes with time, but like, from that 20 songs that I had ready to go, there were like another 20 to 25 that I just threw away. You know what I mean? And like, there is like a point in every song that you're writing where you have to make that decision. Is it good enough to finish? Or like, am I going to be stuck on this forever and it's not even worth it because it's not that good? And that's like the most powerful thing you can do, is decide that something isn't worth it and throw it away. Because whatever you make next is going to be better than it anyways. It's just like, it's literally like science. Like, every time you make a song, it's going to be better than the one before it, whether people on the internet think so or not.
Thank you.
Yeah. That wasn't a stab at the internet, by the way. That was just advice. I love you, internet.
I've got a question about like loudness. It's something I'm facing a lot.
I love it. I love loudness.
In the track I'm trying to finish right now, when I'm at the drop mixing it,
Mm-hmm.
my peaking is showing at like -3.5.
dBs, LUFS.
dBs on the when you go to like the master, the metering. It's like
You mean like here?
yeah, that little thing. That thing says -3.5.
Okay.
But then when I put on my like Julian and I look at the LUFS, I'm at like -18 LUFS. So
Yeah, because
I guess
there's a lot of ways to answer this question, but I'll try to do it as simply as I can. Don't worry about what this guy here says at all. As long as you're not clipping the shit out of Ableton, you're fine. The way that Ableton was built is that it's a digital audio workstation. It's not, like, until you go out through the master, it's still digital audio, and digital audio has no headroom, unlike real audio that was recorded and mixed in Pro Tools. One of the things that you're afforded with that is that you can clip every single channel in Ableton as loud as you want, as long as before you go out of the master, you take a utility and put it on there and drag it down. I do that all the time. Like, literally, like, when I'm working, like, when I start a song, I'll put a utility on the master and drag it down, like, -7 and, like, call it a day. Because, like, trying to mix, like, oh, like, let's start my kick drum at -11 on the channel mixer, and then everything is, like, -24, -36, like, it gets so confusing. Leave the kick at 0, mix everything around that, make it run all the channels super hot, and then just turn it down afterwards, and it's the same exact result. So then, to the analyzer you're talking about, LUFS and the volume meter on Ableton are completely separate things. Until you're like really like slamming the track and mastering it, your LUFS are going to be super quiet. It's just, that's the way it is, especially if you're trying to stay under a certain volume on the master in Ableton. Because if it is at 3.5 on Ableton, that means you're not even hitting 0. So yeah, of course your LUFS are going to be super, like, if like I played the MP3 of this song right now and I brought it into Ableton, it's probably going to like shoot through the channel, you know, like here. Let's just see what happens when I play this. That one's actually fine, but this one you can see is actually clipping. It's like actually clipping after I exported it, clipping. It's not going to clip speakers, it's not going to clip anything, but when I bring it back into Ableton, the channel shows that it's technically overly loud. Like it's clipping the channel or whatever. So your track has to be, you know, at 0, and then you start limiting and stuff before, you know, having a loudness meter is really going to mean anything.
I guess if I could ask one really quick thing, is like, I know I have to increase my gain by at least like 10 dB.
Right.
At minimum.
Right.
But if I'm already like at -3.5, if I add 10, I'm gonna go way over, right? So that's where I'm kind of like.
So what you want to do is, well, are you already mastering or are you just mixing?
Mixing.
Then don't worry about your loudness, because all the loudness and stuff is going to come from the master. Like with the utility taking the whole track down 7 dB, I'm normally trying to have the channel, like the master channel, before mastering, hit around 4 dB. So you're like in the right spot. But once you start, you know, adding like an actual limiter and dragging the threshold down and getting the whole volume to 0, that's when loudness starts to matter. And like, are you compressing it too much? Are you limiting it too much? Whatever.
Cool. Makes sense.
Yeah.
When you're making your kind of like dubstep-ish oscillating sounds, do you focus on finding the sound you want first, or the rhythm you want first, or just fuck it, whatever happens, happens?
Both, all, 3. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like I'm flipping through presets and like the sound is really cool. I'm like, okay, I like the tone, but I need to make, you know, the envelopes change it in a way where it's like moving the right way. Or I'll find a sound where I'm like, the movement is really dope, but I don't like the tone of it. It could really go either way. I guess it's just like every now and then, like a preset will like get me excited. And like to be fair, like, you know, I do make synths from scratch pretty frequently, but they always end up sounding the same. So like it's way more efficient for me to go through a bunch of presets and get excited about one tiny thing from a preset, even if I've completely, by the end of it, changed, like, I'm trying to think of what a good example is, but like, there are so many of my sounds, especially in the early days too, where the sound that ended up in the song could not be farther from the original preset. But it was because of how the original preset sounded that I got excited about it, started tweaking the knobs, went down the rabbit hole, and came out with that sound that it ended up being. So, yeah, I guess it's all the above, as long as like the sound gets you excited, or even if it doesn't, just try to like force it to do what you want. You know what I mean? Like just turn a bunch of knobs and see what happens. Put some weird filters on it. Like drag something where you don't think it should be, and like all of a sudden like you end up getting these crazy sounds that you didn't know were possible because you just haven't tried.
Cool.
We're gonna do a couple more.
Cool. Thanks for doing this. It's so awesome, man.
Yeah,
It's
thank
just,
you.
Like, thank you very much for being transparent and like just showing us everything that your
Yeah.
workings.
I mean, it's not that impressive, so.
I'm gonna step away from the production side of it.
Thank God.
As someone who's sort of developing their brand, their sound, what's like 3 key advice that you would give to someone sort of just starting on the precipice, just literally getting into it? What's some like, key things you're like, oh man, I wish I freaking knew that?
Right. So like have you came up with a name yet, or like what?
Yeah,
what?
name's there.
Okay.
And sort of the vision for the look and the sound is there.
I mean.
Next step. 3
Next
key
step.
advice.
I don't know. I mean, other than, like what I said when I was talking before, like patience and, making sure that the brand and whatever is relevant to yourself and yada, yada, yada. I mean, part of me wants to say, like, don't be afraid to invest in yourself. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to get your logo done, I spent way more money than I had in my bank account on my logo, which is the same Jauz logo that I use today. I got my money's worth. You know what I mean? But like I think I spent $500 on the original design, and I did not have $500 in my bank account. I borrowed it from my mom. I paid her back, but I mean I didn't have it, and I could barely buy food. So like, how was I gonna pay for that? And I was like, look, like, I don't think my student loans are gonna cover this. Like, I don't think I can get away with, creating my brand. But it was worth it because I've had that logo now for like 6 years, and you don't want to have to go through a rebrand halfway through. But other than that, I mean, whatever you need to do to make it feel real, I guess, whether that's creating the socials and like, one thing my business teacher at Icon told me that I probably should have listened more to is like create your socials and get active on them way before you want to actually do something with them, because you need to be comfortable being on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook all the time before you actually need to be. I hate being on social media still. And yeah, that one lesson really resonated with me. And yeah, I don't know. Just go for it, man.
Right on. Thanks.
Last question.
Okay. Hello, Jauz. Yeah, I wonder how did you break through your bottleneck where you are learning to produce? I think it's really annoying problem for me.
Yeah. I mean, so my friends that I like brought down from where I grew up to go to Icon, who went to school, anyone I know who's learning how to produce, I kind of like explained to them the like journey of learning how to make music. And it's like at the beginning, especially if you're going to school for it, you learn so much information and it's really exciting. And you can do all these things you didn't know how to do before and you feel like a genius. But then a little bit after that, you have learned so much information that you actually are going to have a hard time writing good music because you're so worried about applying all of the techniques that you've learned. You know what I mean? And, you know, whether it's mixing or sound design or whatever it is, there was a long point, like maybe a year and a half for me when I was in school and out of school, where I couldn't write a song that I liked because there was just too much information in my brain going around. And that's, I think, the bottleneck you're talking about. And all you can really do is just work hard and push through it. And then eventually one day I woke up and I just opened Ableton and I started writing a song, and things that used to, you know, take actual brain power for me to do, you know, like how to EQ something or when to use a saturator or a compressor or anything like that. I wasn't thinking about it anymore. I was just doing it. You know what I mean? And like every now and then I would catch myself like, oh shit, like I just did that, like without thinking about it, and all of a sudden it's there. And it's like almost like becoming fluent in another language. You know what I mean? Like like, I mean, I don't anymore, but I used to speak French pretty well. And like, but I never got to a point of being fluent, you know? Even when I have conversations now, especially now with people, like I have to think about every single word I'm going to say before it comes out of my mouth. Whereas if you're fluent with a language, you don't think about it. It's just like coming. You know what I mean? It's just like, I mean, especially when I talk, it's just vomiting out of my mouth. But that's another point. So it's like music is, or not just music, but especially music production is a language. And it's a language you have to become fluent with. And once you become fluent with it, you can use it creatively instead of struggling against yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, guys, make some noise for Jauz one more time.
Thank you guys very much for being here. I had a lot of fun.